Wanted to walk you through a quick example of wireframing in Mockflow. So this week we've got a little bit more reading in the user experience, the UX design book, um, and then a couple external readings on wireframes and a short quiz, and we get our first phase project of discovery phase project. And I will send out another recap kind of that project. But as you're getting ready for your discovery project, if you want to pick a client that you want to rebuild their website in WordPress as your final, a lot of the assets and deliverables that we create for the discovery phase and then the next phase and things like that can lead into your final and be built upon. So it might be something to consider now, what you want to do for your final website WordPress rebuild. But back to wireframing exercises. I wanted to run you through Mockflow. Feel free to use pen and paper if you prefer to sketch it, and then just taking a photo on your phone and uploading that. Again, it should be just as detailed as a digital would be, but some people prefer pen and paper or whiteboards than they do digital. Completely your preference. So I'm going to go ahead and sign into Mockflow. Looks like I'm already signed in actually. And give you a little run through. So when you log in, go ahead and click on up here. It'll either say new UI, use new UI, or new wireframe. So I clicked on create new wireframes, and we get all these icons. These are more specific based on which are you doing virtual reality or mobile games, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and click on web, and we're going to use HTML5 web. Feel free to play around in here, but we're going to go ahead and use this UI pack for now. And what are we going to call it? Let's say Creative Agency. And start. Oh, I already have a project. So that shouldn't happen. So it looks like I'm going to go back and open the one that I've been already started. But you would go ahead and then hit click OK, and you'll be taken to this screen that's about to load for me. That's the free version, only having one example. So I'm going to go ahead and just highlight all this and delete it, and I'll show you kind of little maneuverability around here. So there's a few things you can do. Over here is all your assets for wireframing. So once you kind of have a concept in your mind, whether you started on paper and then went digital or just starting digital, I'm going to go ahead and drag over my browser. So I just drag and drop. And that looks like kind of a small laptop. So I'm going to drag it. Maybe I'm going to start with desktop. So there we go. And now I'm going to start wireframing. So images are represented, as you guys hopefully have already read, in the wireframing with the X hash across. So I'm going to go ahead and drag, although it says image, it can also be an icon because those are image files. So I'm going to go ahead and put my logo up here. And then, oh, I have these transformations so I can rotate. I can flip an image if there is, I can pick an image to upload into it. But for this stage, we're just doing a basic wireframe. So we don't want them to be influenced, our client or ourselves, by what we're looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Elements. And now I'm looking for a navigation bar. Yeah, a link bar, sure. And we have 4 links already in there. We have a couple options. We can double click on an asset, and it looks like they are comma separated. So if I was to change this to home and then hit enter, it would then change, and I can add, let's say, contact and enter. Oh, looks like my space maybe broke it. Or it looks like we are maybe limited to 4 links on this. So I would need to delete this. And I can begin to change, and I can position that. Again, it adds this the red ruler lines to help with alignment and proximity to how much we want to do spacing. And then I kind of want a large call to action. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a large image file. But I want this to be full bleed, and by that I don't want this to be aligned with my logo. I want it to really breathe off the page. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this image out, and maybe over here I'll have some text later. that pops up or slowly fades in. Oh, there's a little bit of spacing off the page there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll touch up the alignment and perfection of spacing later on. And then, so we'll have a call to action, our logo, and then we can go ahead and drag our browser lower as we design further down the page, and going back to elements again. And let's go ahead and get some text. Where's the text field? Right at the top, where it should be. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and maybe I want like a 50-50 grid. So I'm going to drag this to the middle. And the font size I can highlight. And once I highlight, I double click that at my text, Control A or Command A on Apple, and probably like a size font 18. But that text, the line height's really close. So I'm going to go ahead and over here, I'm going to boost up. And now it's moving it up. And that's just a browser format, but I like that spacing. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag it down to where it was. And it automatically puts this lorem ipsum placeholder text in. So I'm just going to go ahead and add another paragraph in there. Because again, at this point, it doesn't matter what images we use or what text. It's just about where things will live. So we can visually see. And over here, I think I'm going to put a larger, we drive, a larger call to action. Maybe like we drive projects forward. Let's talk about your next project. And that's going to be way smaller, but I want this to be bold, and I definitely want this to be much larger. So let's say 36, and let's see what that does. And I like that, but again, line height, maybe let's boost it up, something like that. And let's go ahead and center that. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. And then maybe this should be centered, maybe it shouldn't. Yeah, but again, this is going to be using a lot of white space. So I'm going to bring it down a bit, just add a little white space right there. And going back to elements, and then maybe using a horizontal line on the page just to add a little separation as I go into the next section. And then maybe down here, maybe I have a pricing plan of what services they offer, or maybe a portfolio with a couple images. I could drop a couple, I could add a title right here. It says, see our work. And if I hit Control and copy, paste, just like I would in Word, it pastes another element next to it. And maybe I can build a grid like this and kind of showcase their work. And if I hold Shift, I can select multiple elements and move them around. The only thing I can't do is hold Option on Apple and create a new instance. But yeah, just to show you an idea. So that's getting somewhere. We're going to go ahead and it auto saves every 35 or 45 seconds, but I just want to hit save. And when you're done with your wireframe, I'm going to go ahead and click export. I hit review and then export. I think it might have been on the other page as well. And let's go ahead and export as an image. And if we have multiple pages, we would add those. But for this wireframe example, let's just do one page. We're going to add that and create a PNG. And download, it's going to take us to our wireframe. And we can go ahead and right click, save image as, and then upload that PNG as your wireframe. So again, just kind of play around with wireframes. We'll be working on this later on in the semester as we wireframe our final prototype and then build it in WordPress. So this just kind of gives you a small sample of what can be done. Feel free to use what the site you used for your SiteMaps exercise, 1 or 2, or pick another site out. But again, don't go super high fidelity, really complex wireframing. At this point, just build the structure of the site, just like this. Use these image holders to kind of represent what you think and your early concept of what could be possible for this redesign. As always, email me with any questions you guys have. There are some limitations with Mockflow, so again, if you choose to use pen and paper, I usually start with pen and paper and then move to digital. But again, that's just personal preference of the designer. Good luck and talk soon, guys.